I'm an old man now, and people know me, if they know me at all, as the guy who sailed on the real U-96, the boat from Das Boot. That makes them smile. They think of movie posters, model kits, YouTube clips of depth charges, and men in wool caps. They don't think of the way my hands still tremble when a truck outside hits a pothole and the window glass rattles like light bulbs in a pressure hull. Back then, I am not an old man. I am the torpedo officer on U-96, a type Cessie's IC U-boat sailing out of Saint-Nazaire. Our captain is Heinrich Lehmann Willenbrock. A writer and photographer, Lothar Günther Buchheim, is on board as a war correspondent. Years later, he will turn what he sees into a book called Das Boot. Years after that, there will be the film. People will argue in forums about which depth gauge shot is most accurate. None of them will hear the real sound the hull makes when it is close to breaking. One night in 1941, far out in the Atlantic, we attack a small British convoy. We put a torpedo into a troopship called SS Anselm, packed far beyond her peaceful peacetime capacity. Escorts scream in, dropping depth charges until the sea above us is all white water and thunder. To escape, our captain orders the boat below the depth the manuals call safe. The steel holds. Hundreds of men on Anselm never make it to the surface, or die in the cold water, even after the escorts pull some of them out. We come home to a band, a patrol report, and eventually a famous novel. They become names on a memorial in a port none of us will ever see. People like to ask me about Das Boot. Was it really like that? Was it exciting? Sometimes I say yes, because it is easier. The longer answer is different, and it begins on that night when we are not yet legend, just one gray boat among many, stalking the dark. Here is what really happens. Not on film, but in steel and salt and breath. Type continue to generate the next section. Atlantic Ocean, early hours of 5th of July, 1941. A small British formation pushes south, about 300 miles north of the Azores. At its center is SS Anselm, a former passenger liner turned troopship, carrying more than 200 men, RAF personnel, soldiers, officers, cooks, clerks. She was designed for roughly half that number, so every passageway, every cabin, every corner is full of bodies and baggage. Ahead of her steams the survey vessel HMS Challenger. Astern trails the corvette HMS Starwort, hampered tonight by a faulty ASDIC set. To port and starboard, HMS Petunia and HMS Lavender guard the flanks. Lean little flower-class corvettes used to this lonely work. Low in the water, decks wet even in moderate seas, crews permanently half-tired and half-frozen. For hours, the convoy has moved in fog, sound muted, visibility down to a few ship lengths. The ships advance through a gray wall, obeying the routine. Zigzagging courses, darkened lights, constant lookouts. Somewhere overhead, a long-range Focke-Wulf Condor has already sighted them and sent a position report. Somewhere under the surface, that report has reached a boat like ours. The fog thins shortly before dawn. Shapes appear on the horizon and then solidify. Challenger's stubby silhouette at the head, Anselm's tall, boxy side behind. Corvettes spread out on either side. Signal lamps wink briefly as positions are adjusted. Orders move along decks and down ladders. Below the sea, U-96 glides at periscope depth. In the control room, red light washes over faces and instruments. The air is thick with diesel residue, sweat, and the metallic tang of batteries. Men move with the careful economy of those who have been at sea too long inside too little space. The captain raises the attack periscope. Water runs down the tube in thin streams. He turns slowly, the world above passing in narrow slices. Escort port, escort starboard, the high side of the troop ship with boat davits and life rafts crammed. Spray drifting past. Men barely visible as dots along the rails. Target, the large ship astern of Challenger, he says quietly. The troop ship. We take her, not the escort. He lowers the periscope and glances at Buchheim, who stands in the corner of the control room with his camera and notebook, eyes bright. Years later, people will watch an actor play this moment. Right now, it is just routine with slightly higher stakes. Prepare for attack, the captain orders. Type continue to generate the next section. Action stations. The shout echoes down every passage in U-96. Men swing from bunks, boots thump on steel. Someone slams into a bulkhead and swears under his breath. In the bow compartment, torpedo crews stand at their posts, hands on levers and wheels they could work in their sleep. 4 G7E torpedoes sit ready in their tubes, batteries charged, pistols armed. In the control room, the chatter evaporates as if someone has opened a valve and let it all out. The captain leans into the periscope again. I stand at the torpedo data computer, pencil ready, mind already turning bearings into crossing lines. Range, 2,000 meters. Speed, 8 knots. Angle on the bow.
Target bearing
Green,
090.
4-5.
Mark.
The captain says.
Fire control. Stand by.
His voice is clipped, steady. I repeat the numbers, feed them into the brass and steel brain of the TDC. Wheels spin. Dials creep. The machine gives us gyro angles, the invisible geometry that will decide whether metal finds metal. On Anselm's upper deck, a few men are awake early. A young RAF radio operator leans on the rail, breathing the cold air, trying to clear his head. A chaplain sits on a bench near a lifeboat, flipping through a small prayer book by the light of a shaded lantern. They hear the change in the ship's vibration as she begins a new leg of her zigzag. To them, it means only that the helmsman is following orders. To us, beneath them, it is the last adjustment on a firing solution. Forward tubes 1 through 4 ready, a voice reports from the bow. Open bow caps, the captain orders. Outside, seawater rushes past the open doors with a deep hiss. The boat shivers slightly as drag changes. In the control room, men brace unconsciously, feet a little wider apart. In the red light, the captain's face is pale, eyes fixed. One more hunter on one more night. No music swells, no camera tracks in. There is just his voice and our breathing. Feuer? The word is soft, almost gentle. The effect is violent. Compressed air slams into the tubes. The hull jumps once, twice, 3, 4 times as each torpedo leaves with a heavy kick. Then the noise dies quickly. We are left with the quiet whine of the electric motors and the little ticking sounds the boat always makes when everyone stops talking and starts listening. Torpedoes have no sound for us once they are gone. The only path we can follow is on paper, 4 tiny pencil lines moving outward from our position, curving slightly as they adjust to their gyro angles, converging on the convoy track. We wait. The seconds stretch. Someone's knuckles whiten on a handrail. Someone else's lips move silently. Not quite a prayer, not quite a curse.
What in the name
Then
of God
the sea
is that?
answers our question. A single, deep detonation rolls through the hull. It is not sharp. It is heavy, like a giant fist punching a mattress. A moment later, another, more complex noise follows. A drawn-out tearing and grinding, transmitted through thousands of tons of water and a few centimeters of steel.
We have a confirmed
Hit,
hull breach in section
the hydrophone
3.
operator
Repeat,
whispers.
Hull breach in section 3.
Big one.
Emergency
Breaking up
surfacing
noises.
procedure.
She's hurt badly. On Anselm, the torpedo slams into the port side near the engine spaces. The blast tears bulkheads, rips through crowded compartments, throws men from hammocks and benches.
We took a hit!
Lights fail. Steam lines rupture. The ship lurches, pauses, begins to settle by the head. We cannot see those details from here. What we know is simple. We have done what we were sent to do. And now the ocean gives the escorts their turn. Destroyers and corvettes altering course. The hydrophone operator says, voice tightening.
We have an explosion bearing
Fast screws approaching,
090.
bearing shifting quickly. They are coming straight for us.
Dive!
Take us down, the captain says. 80 meters, silent running.
Well,
Let's see if
gentlemen,
Das
it seems
Boot
we've
can
managed
live
to
up to
get
the
ourselves
posters
into
they'll
another
print one
fine
day.
mess.
No
Try
one
not to
laughs.
drown quietly.
Not yet. Type
Emergency.
continue to generate
Brace for
the next
impact.
section.
All hands,
Alarm.
battle
Dive.
stations.
Water
Emergency dive.
roars
Brace
into
for
ballast
impact.
tanks. The bow dips.
Securing ballast
The angle
tanks
makes
now.
everyone lean
Hold her
and
steady.
adjust without thinking. Years of training and weeks at sea, turning instincts into muscle memory. The depth gauge needle slides past 10, 20, 40 meters. The hull's noises change. The slap of surface waves becomes a heavier, more distant thudding. Level her at 80. The captain orders. Motors slow, silent running. Diesel thunder is gone. The softer hum of electric motors takes over. In the sudden relative quiet, every sound becomes sharp. A shoe squeak, a valve hiss, the faint creak as steel adjusts to new pressure. At the hydrophones, our listener presses padded cups tighter to his ears. Fast screws. Bearing 170, another at 010. Closing fast.
Countermeasures.
He murmurs. 2, maybe 3 escorts. Up above, Petunia and Lavender swing in toward the line where Anselm's wake and the torpedo tracks must have crossed. The little corvette's bows bury in the swell as they increase speed. On their bridges, captains bark orders into voice pipes. Men spin wheels to bring ASDIC beams onto the suspected bearing. Ratings haul depth charges into throwers and racks. On Petunia's stern, the depth charge party works by rote. Canisters are rolled into ready positions, pistols set for estimated depth. They do not know exactly where we are. They know only that somewhere below their keel is a shape that just tore open a crowded ship. Some of them glance back at the burning patch of sea where Anselm is already sagging in the water. Then the orders come, and they focus forward again. Inside U-96, we don't see them. We only feel them coming. The screws grow louder, a throbbing roar that vibrates in our chests. The hull hums with it. Men tense, heads tilting slightly, as if ears alone could locate exactly where the danger will fall. The first pattern drops. There is no sound of the charges falling here, just the sudden, enormous concussion when they go off. The first detonation is off to one side, far enough that it feels like a heavy push rather than a punch. Dust and paint flecks drift down from overhead. A coffee cup rattles in someone's hand. The second is closer. The blow slams through the boat, making the deck jump under our boots. A man in the bow bites his tongue. A thin line of blood runs down his chin. A gauge glass spiderwebs with cracks. Hold depth. the captain says, eyes on the instruments. No big rudder movements. Let them guess. Above, Petunia completes her run and peels away, making room for Lavender. Their Aztec operators call new bearings. Starwort, still struggling with faulty sonar, joins the chase mostly by eye and guess, her crew just as angry, just as determined. The second pattern comes in harder. Explosions walk across the surface above us, and then down the water column, closing in. One goes off close enough that the lights flicker. Another makes a pipe somewhere in the bow jump in its brackets with a harsh metallic clang. Forward compartment reports small leak. The engineer says, voice controlled. Seepage around a hatch. We are working on it. Steel creaks, louder now. 80 meters is well within the boat's design, but not when explosives are hammering the water nearby. We have become the fixed point in the escorts world. They will keep circling and dropping until either something breaks under their keels, or they are ordered to stop. And we are not on film. There is no convenient cut when the tension grows too much. There is only the next run. Type continue to generate the next section. The depth gauge still reads 80, but the boat feels heavier. The hull's groaning has settled into a constant background noise, a low animal complaint between the sharper cracks of nearby blasts. In the bow, the small leak has turned into a steady drip. Men there cram rags and tapered wooden plugs into seams, water soaking their sleeves, knuckles white on tools. The hydrophone operator lifts his hand for attention. They still have us, he whispers. 2 escorts circling, patterns getting closer. They are bracketing our last position. Above, corvette crews reload throwers, set new depths on pistols, and send another string of charges into the sea. They are hurting their own ears and their own chances of a clean sonar picture. But they know the submarine is out there, somewhere in the boiling water under the mid-Atlantic sky. Anselm is sinking fast. Men are already in the sea. Rage and duty mix in every order. Inside the boat, 3 facts press against each other. If we stay at 80, one perfect pattern might crush us. If we surface, we will likely come up right under their guns. There is a deeper layer where water temperature changes, bending sonar beams and fuzzing echoes. Officially, we are not meant to fight down there. The engineer looks at the captain. His face is slick with sweat despite the warmth. She can take more, he says quietly. We tested deeper in the Baltic. If we go below the layer, their Aztec will be blind, or at least half blind. If we stay here, he does not finish the sentence. He doesn't need to. The captain's eyes flick to the depth gauge, then to the leak report, then to the chart that shows nothing about pressure or steel fatigue. Only depth numbers and a safe line drawn by someone at a desk years ago. For a second, I wonder what the actor who will play him one day will do with this moment. In reality, it is short, ugly, and simple. New depth, 150 meters, he says. Small rudder. Keep silent. No heroics. The helmsman swallows and obeys. The bow dips again. The needle begins to move. 90, 100, 120. The hull answers with longer, higher groans. Somewhere aft, a spoon falls, clatters on the deck, and is instantly stilled by a boot. Another pattern of charges goes off above, but this time Most of the explosions are felt more than heard,
Steady.
blurred by the developing layer between us and the surface. One, closer, slams the boat hard enough to knock a man off his feet. A pipe fitting in the control room sprays a thin, cold mist before someone wraps it with cloth and clamps. The depth gauge reaches 150. For a few heartbeats, every eye in the control room seems drawn to it. The metal case vibrates slightly. The needle trembles, then holds. This is the coin flip. Not the attack, not the hit on the troop ship, not the triumphant patrol report. This, if the hull lets go now, there is no soundtrack, no fade to black. There is just a roar, a rush, then nothing. Up above, the escorts wage their own battle against physics and fatigue. Their sonar screens are a mess of returns. Wreck, bubbles, breaking ship, thermal layer. The clear contact they had at 80 is now a vague smear at best. On Petunia's bridge, the captain glances back at the burning patch of sea where Anselm was. Men are clustered at the rails, shouting, pointing at figures in the water. Boats are going down. His Aztec officer reports the uncertain contact, the way the echo fades when they expect it to grow. They have dropped a lot of charges. They have limited stocks and a convoy to protect. And there are still hundreds of men in the water. The next signal he gives is reluctant but necessary. Break off the attack, begin rescue, reform screen. Down here, we do not hear the words. We hear only this. The next pattern is farther away. The one after that is more distant still. The screws begin to fade. Slowly, very slowly, the coin stops spinning. Type continue to generate the next section. We stay at 150 meters for long minutes, listening. The leaks hold at annoying instead of fatal. The hull's complaints are no longer getting worse. No gauge is in the red. Still, no one relaxes. At this depth, there is very little between fine and gone. Any nearby screws? The captain asks at last. The hydrophone operator listens in absolute silence, every muscle in his face tense. Convoy screws moving off. He says finally. Somewhere ahead. One escort still out there. Slow speed. Sounds like rescue work.
Meters.
No fast approach. The captain nods once. Very well. Bring us up, slowly. New depth 60 meters, then periscope depth. Nice and gentle. No sudden moves. We've had enough excitement for Buchheim's book.
Pity, I was starting.
The helmsman smiles tightly despite himself and obeys. The bow rises. The depth gauge needle slides back down toward friendlier numbers. 130, 100, 80, 60. The hull's song drops in pitch. At periscope depth, the captain raises the scope for only a few seconds. The night above is chaos. Burning patches of sea, rescue boats moving like small shadows, corvettes with nets over the side and scrambling figures on deck. Anselm is mostly gone now, just wreckage and a broad, ugly slick that glistens in the flicker of
Bearing
flames.
020.
He makes a
Contact
slow
made.
circle.
Prepare for immediate dive
No
maneuvers.
searchlights probe the area near us yet. No destroyer silhouette bears down. Downscope, he says. We are leaving. He does not watch long enough to see individual faces hauled aboard or hands slipping from lifelines. Neither do we. We turn away, set a new course, and let the Atlantic close behind us. In the film one day, this kind of scene will get a slow track, dramatic music. maybe a lingering shot of eyes above a scarf. On the real patrol, it is over in seconds. The only thing that lasts is the knowledge that while our hull held at 150, another ship's did not. Type continue to generate the next section. 21 days after we left port, U-96 slides back into the U-boat pens at Saint-Nazaire. From the quay, she looks almost like every other returning boat. Gray hull streaked with salt, emblem on the conning tower, crew lined up on deck. There is a band. There are flowers. Cameras click. The official story of our patrol unfolds in an office, not in the red light of the control room. It goes like this. Departed on such and such a date. Operated in Grid BD, sighted small convoy, sank one large troop ship with one torpedo from a spread of 4, endured heavy depth charge attack from escorts, sustained minor damage, patrol cut short by that damage, returned to base. Result, successful engagement. Tonnage. One ship, a little over 5,000 gross registered tons. Lives lost. A line on the page.
Private
Names
Lehman
appear.
right here.
U-96,
He hasn't checked in yet.
Lehman Villenbrock. Anselm, British troop transport. The escorts, Petunia, Lavender, Challenger, Starwort, get a mention in the notes for their vigorous counterattack and for rescuing hundreds of survivors.
Victory.
There are handshakes, drinks, talk of medals. Somewhere, a clerk files away the report among dozens of others. On paper, it looks clean. One patrol among many in the long battle of the Atlantic. To those of us who were there, the patrol has a different shape. It is defined not by the day we left or returned, but by the minutes between foyer and the first detonation. By the moment the depth gauge touched 150 and did not go farther. By the feeling of the hull not breaking when everything in your body is sure it will. The war moves on. Das Boot the book will not appear until 1973. The film will follow in 1981. By then, the U-boat war will be long over. U-96 herself will have been taken out of combat service and eventually destroyed in an air raid on Wilhelmshaven. The boat that terrified convoys inspired a novel and a film, and now sells t-shirts and Blu-rays, will end as twisted metal in a bombed-out pen. In 1943, while other boats die in what U-boat men later call Black May, we are assigned to training duties. Other crews take the risks out in the North Atlantic as Allied radar. Aircraft, escorts, and codebreakers finally grind the wolf packs down. Whole crews vanish with their boats, leaving only numbers behind. Each with their own coin flip that landed the wrong way. For us, the Anselm Patrol remains the one that split the world in two. Before you know how it feels to be at 150 meters with leaks and charges above and after. Type
Don't you worry about a
continue
thing
to
now.
generate the next
It's all
section.
gonna work out just
Back
fine,
in the
you'll
present, people sometimes recognize the name U-96 when I mention it.
We have to
Their
tell everyone
faces
right away.
light up. Like
This
in
is
Das
incredible
Boot?
news.
They ask. Have you seen the film? Of course I have seen it. Parts of it are painfully accurate. The sweat on faces, the red light, the way men move around each other in the control room. Parts are off, as any film must be. None of that is what keeps me awake. What stays with me is not a single shot from the movie, but the feel of my own boat at 150 meters with water dripping in the bow and charges hammering the surface above. It is the knowledge that on that night, when our captain chose to go under the safe line instead of up to the guns, something like a coin was tossed in the dark. On one side of that coin were 1,300 men crammed into a troopship who never had a say in it. On the other were 50-odd men in a submarine who believed, as I did, that we were serving our country, doing our duty, playing our part in a vast, impersonal struggle. The coin landed our way. For many years after the war, I tried to make that outcome neat. Sometimes I told myself we were just soldiers and sailors, like the men on the other side. Sometimes I buried it in drink or work. Sometimes I hid behind the popularity of the film. If people wanted U-96 as a poster or a scale model, if they could recite lines from the script, maybe that meant the story had been processed, finished, turned into culture instead of memory. It never really works. The real patrol does not end with the credits. So here is the only answer I have found, and it is not clever. It is simply this. You live with it by refusing to lie about it. You do not pretend that tonnage is just a number. You remember that Anselm was a ship full of men with names and families, not just a silhouette under a crosshair. You remember that the sailors on Petunia and Lavender were enemies and rescuers at once, dropping depth charges on us while hauling our victims from the water. You also do not pretend that you were a monster and they were saints. Everyone out there was caught in the same machinery, pushed across the same ocean by decisions made far away. On some evenings, when the house is quiet and the refrigerator hums, I pour a small glass of schnapps and set another one opposite it on the table. In my mind, I fill that second glass 3 times over. Once for my own crew on U-96, who did their jobs in the red light and the diesel smoke. Once for the men on Anselm who never reached Freetown. And once for the crews of Petunia, Lavender, Challenger, and Starwort, who fought us and saved as many of our victims as they could on the same night. Then I drink mine. The other glass stays full. It is not much. It does not balance anything, but it keeps the story from shrinking down to a movie poster. People will go on watching Das Boot and arguing online about which version is better, the director's cut or the miniseries. They will count the depth charges and critique the model work. That is their right. I carry something else. The memory of a depth gauge at 150 meters and a hull that did not break, and the quiet, stubborn decision to spend the years I was given by that fact doing at least one thing right. Telling this story truthfully is a start.